Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I create videos and content about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships. If you have a question that you want me to answer, make sure you send it to justaskmatt at mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt at mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and you're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. Also, make sure you hit the bell notification and the subscribe notification so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. I upload new videos on this channel 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And also, this channel and this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you need a therapist, if you need more help beyond what this video can provide, I encourage for you to choose an online therapist through BetterHelp. And if you use the link in my bio, you will get 15% off your first month with an online therapist with BetterHelp. With all that being said, let's get into today's email. So today's email comes from a person who is struggling with self-forgiveness. And one of the things about self-forgiveness, if you've been following me for a while and following my channel for a while, you know that I talk about the whole suite of self-love. Oftentimes people toss around the word and the concepts of self-love a lot, but we don't understand that there are certain elements that equate to self-love, that are a part of what I call like a self-love suite. One of them is being able to forgive ourselves. So often when I'm working with someone, I tell people that there's no such thing as a mistake, that everything is a lesson to be learned, that we don't learn anything unless we've actually made some mistakes. So let's get into today's email. And let's break this down for this person. Let's see if we can help this person out, and in turn also help out you who might be struggling with this as well. So this email reads, "Hey Matt, I would really just love to express how I appreciate your platform. Understanding how hard it is to find mental help these days. Your resources are amazing and can't thank you enough. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for your kind words. They always mean a lot to me. Anytime someone reviews my podcast or reviews or comments on here or sends me DMs, I appreciate every single bit of it. So thank you very much as well. Really, my question is how I can effectively forgive myself. I've been through significant amounts of abuse in every category. So I've set boundaries, become self-aware. I'm working on mindfulness practices, but I cannot seem to forgive myself for allowing these situations to happen and continue happening and letting them affect me. Really, what goes through my head is that I'm trusting these other people more than I trust myself and my intuition." You hit the nail on the head. We're going to put a bookmark there, and we're going to come back to that here in a second. I feel as if I've betrayed myself. You have, right? You have. And so we're going to circle back to that here in a second as well. If you have any self-forgiveness tips or practices, I would greatly appreciate hearing them. Again, thank you so much for the work that you do. You're very, very welcome. So let's circle back to some of the things that you talked about in terms of your intuition and in terms of trusting other people and in terms of trusting yourself. We have to understand that the core essence of not trusting other people is that we really don't trust ourselves. And there's a focus on pain, right? We're trying to avoid feeling pain whenever we don't trust other people. But what happens a lot of times is that exactly what you said, that we betray ourselves and we don't listen to our intuition quite often because there's something about that person that we don't want to mess up. And what I'm hearing is a lot of people pleasing, a lot of codependent type of behavior. However, this is the important part when it comes to abusive situations. You hear me say this all the time, that the abuse that happens to you, it's not your fault, right? None of it is your fault. There is no excuse for abuse, none. However, right, this is where we have to have some difficult conversations. The healing is 100% your responsibility. And a part of that healing is we have to take an uncomfortable look back at the very beginning of these relationships that you're talking about. Because you hit the nail on the head, that there is a part of you that betrayed yourself. So what do we mean? right? What do we mean when we betray ourselves? We have to look back at this, and it's uncomfortable. And this is where a lot of people get stuck because they try to numb this out, or they try to avoid this. They try to avoid taking responsibility for themselves when it's actually exactly what we need. So we look back at the early parts of the relationship, back when the sex was great, back when we thought this person was our soulmate, everything that we thought was absolutely lovely about this person. And we begin to look back at times. There's always a moment or a handful of moments, right? Something happens during those first few weeks or those first few months, and something inside of you says, walk away, break up with them. Don't do this. I don't care how tall he is. I don't care how beautiful she is. Walk away. And quite often, because of our own people pleasing and codependency, what do? We don't do it. Why? Because quite often we are struggling because we have this person on a pedestal. It may be the first time that we have felt like this in a long time, and we don't want to ruin something that's great. We don't want to be the reason for ruining our soulmate. And I challenge for you guys to comment in the section down below. For you who can relate, tell me what that was. What was it? For some people, it was road rage. For some people, it was they were still talking to an ex when they said they were done. They were still living with the ex when they said they were done. Those sorts of things. And we just continued to fly past that red flag and betray what we know is not only a red flag, but a complete deal breaker, because we don't want to ruin the relationship. And so when we look back and we begin to take responsibility for that moment, it's very uncomfortable. However, we look back at that, and here's where it begins. We begin to reframe that, because guess what? You were right. You were 100% right. Most often, whatever that moment was for you, whatever it is that you saw when you go back through the pattern of the relationship, oftentimes whatever you saw in the beginning, it was just an exaggerated version of that throughout the relationship. If you caught them talking to other men or other women, they probably were cheating pretty heavily throughout the relationship, right? If you saw road rage in the beginning, they probably were a hothead, and they probably had a lot of emotional outbursts all throughout the relationship, right? So you saw it in the beginning. So what we do is that we take back and we look back at those moments, and we actually begin to understand that, yeah, I knew it right from the beginning. So forgiveness, let's put a bookmark there. If somebody else, a friend of yours, were to betray you or to hurt you in some way, and they asked for your forgiveness, what would it be that we're looking for from them? We would be looking for changed behavior from that person. We would want them to change their behavior, right? And over time, over the course of time, once they reestablish trust, once we see that they don't engage in that type of behavior anymore, we can allow for that person to begin to earn trust. It's the same thing with ourselves. The reason why you feel like you betrayed yourself, and the reason why you feel like you can't trust yourself, is because at one point in time, you were not trustworthy to yourself. At one point in time, your intuition told you to walk away in the beginning, and you didn't. And then shit hit the fan. And then guess what? Your intuition is basically like, I told you. I didn't like this person. I didn't like this guy. I didn't like this lady. And so now we have to look back those moments, and we have to begin to piece those things together and understand that if we're ever presented with those type of things again in the future, if our intuition begins to kick in and tells us, walk away, break up with this person. I don't like the way that this person is behaving. I don't like the way this person is talking to me. I don't like the way that this person is treating me. We have to begin to take action. It's one thing to, I remember in your email, you said that you're now setting boundaries. It's one thing to set boundaries. It's another thing to enforce boundaries. So long story short, when we're forgiving ourselves, we have to understand that if we're ever presented with these type of things, this type of behavior early on, and our intuition begins to kick in, we have to know what we're going to do next time if we're ever placed back into that type of situation. So thank you very much for writing in. Anyone else who has a question that you would like for me to answer, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and also be very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. With all that being said, thank you very much for writing in, and I will see you guys in the next video.